All right, everybody. We are here, Pro Wrestling Logic, Scott Golden, and we are here with the AEW Double or Nothing 2020 review. And I don't often say this, but these are the nights that I'm glad that I stick with wrestling. Overall, this was a phenomenal show, worth going out of your way to order and see. I had some technical difficulties, so this review coming to you a little bit later than I planned, in the sense that I had to go back and rewatch some of the opening ladder match because my connection to the stream that I was watching of the pay-per-view from BR Live or whatever it is didn't want to work properly during the ladder match, so I had to go back and rewatch some stuff. But other than the technical difficulties, certainly worth a watch in every way. So we'll get down to business, and we will be adding a bunch more of the TNT Tuesday Night Titans review tomorrow. Like, subscribe, comment below. But I wanted to get this to you before I head off to work my overnight shift. And so, obviously, this is a rare occurrence in the modern wrestling era to have a pay-per-view that really, save for one or two matches, I think everything here was at least passable, if not very good. We opened with the pre-show. That is a number one contenders match for the tag team championships as the Best Friends defeated Private Party. If you like these teams, and I'm growing to like the Best Friends more than I used to, but if you do like these teams, it's what you would expect. A little bit too spotty for my taste, but at the same time, if we go with the mentality that people haven't seen a lot of regular sports in the last 3 months due to the pandemic, and we go with the fact that we're trying to get people to buy a pay-per-view, I can understand why this match was where it was and played out the way it did. I'm not a fan of Private Party. Some people are. I don't have to be to understand that they have a place within the company, even though personally, if I were in a position of power, I would let them go. Anyway, so Trent, does a pretty good job selling his ribs, but other than that, there's a lot of non-selling going on in all of this match. Chuck Taylor and Cassidy begin. Cassidy hits a series of kip-ups and then hits a takedown. And then Taylor, they show respect to each other. Quinn hits a standing moonsault on Trent for near fall. And then Trent hits a spear. And then they do the standing sliced bread bit with guys from each team. Not a fan of this because these are already finishers and we're not even 2 minutes into the match. Anyway, legal men end up being Cassidy and Trent. Cassidy hits the silly string, which I thought was a finish, so this is really early. And then Mark Quinn comes in and he takes Trent's headband, which pops Jim Ross at least for a minute, and then they go to the floor, use of the barricade. Which the one thing I would say is this program certainly does overuse the barricade quite a bit. Then we see a tope to the outside by Cassidy. Trent and Taylor hit a Doomsday Device superplex onto Quinn for near fall. Taylor works over Quinn in the proper corner. Trent tries a swinging DDT, but gets dropped. It gets blocked and drop kicked for his trouble. Cassidy goes for the tag and hits it, and then, or gets it rather, and then he hits a moonsault off the post onto the floor. Quinn uses a pop-up double stop on Trent for near fall. Trent uses some back suplexes on the members of Private Party before getting the tag. half and half suplex soul food combination by the best friends, and then they do the hug deal, which I think they should put that on hold until there's people back in the building, and then do the hug thing. I get that it's something unique for them, but if there's no one watching other than a few wrestlers in the crowd, the hug spot's kind of dumb. Anyway, then we go to a standing shooting star press used by Quinn. The team of Private Party hits a G9 to tribute to Shad Gaspar. Quinn hits a shooting star off the top. He gets more and more height on that move every time he does it. Anyway, so Private Party tries the gin and juice but can't get it done. And then the finish sees Taylor pull Cassidy to the floor. Trent sets up the strong zero. Taylor hits the foot stomp off the top, and Trent pins Quinn. So your best friends are your number one tag team championship contenders. Then we go to an interview with Arn Anderson. Anderson listed a series of things that could happen. He said he could DDT Jake could DDT him. He said Mike Tyson could knock one or both of them out. And Archer may be the favorite, but that's discounting Cody's heart and ability to last and take punishment. Then we see a hype video for the championship match before the actual pay-per-view show opens. I had a lot of trouble with this. I don't know if it was my internet connection. I don't know if it was a problem with BR Live. I don't know what it was, but there was a bunch of problems. I had to go back and watch at least half the match after the pay-per-view ended because I missed a good bit of it first run through. Anyway, lots of moves here, crazy spots, sloppiness, but overall they didn't take as many risks as I expected them to take with this many people in a ladder match and new competitors in every 2 minutes. The match could be won at any time. I wish they actually had done the bit where somebody wins before all the combatants get out there. Let's see. So Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian, representing the team of STU, actually happen to be the first two out there. They have a good wrestling exchange, high-flying type stuff. Kip Sabian, who, I don't get it. He's out next, and Jimmy Havoc comes in from the crowd and introduces ladders into the match. Havoc and Sabian hit a Michinoku driver dropkick combination, even though Havoc isn't legally in the match. Kazarian hits a superplex on to Havoc onto the ladder. Sabian teased a dive off the ladder onto the floor, but didn't come through at this point. Darby Allin out next. This is where my stream started to kick in and be somewhat nicer. He hit a tope to the outside on the folks on the outside. Allin sets up a ladder bridge from the apron to the barricade, and then throws his skateboard at Frankie Kazarian. Allin smashed through the ladder bridge that he had made previously. He's out of the match for a good bit. Orange Cassidy out next. He manages to speak enough to ask the rules of the match. Cassidy does some comedy stuff trying to figure out how to set up the ladder without having to do any work. I finally am getting the gimmick. He is your typical stoner teenager, only he's an adult. I'm getting it now. I don't necessarily know if I like it or dislike it or what it is, but I get it. He's a stoner who thinks he's funny, who doesn't want to do anything. Anyway, Colt Cabana out next. Cabana climbs the ladder and touches the chip, but he does not end up getting anywhere with it. Cassidy hits kicks and then a tope to the outside. Joey Janela is his usual waste of space self out next. He hits a crazy dive off the stage and a leg lariat over the barricade. Kazarian climbs the ladder and Sky nails him with a chair. Sabian hits Kazarian with a DDT off the ladder. Big man Luchasaurus is next man in. He powerbombs Sabian over the top rope, and a bunch of guys obviously catch him so he didn't die. Luchasaurus slams Kazarian on a ladder. Allen hits a code red off the second rope onto the big man Luchasaurus. Then we see the mystery participant, who happens to be a very good talent and a good ad for AEW in general, which is Brian Cage. Although Brian Cage is supposedly associated, managed by, presented by, or something such, Taz. So maybe Taz is going to be a manager, or maybe this was a one-night thing. Who knows? Anyway, Cage hits a series of moves that lays out everyone, but does not touch Orange Cassidy for his trouble. Cage climbs the ladder, and Cassidy jumped onto Cage's back, and Cage is pulled off the ladder when everyone teams up to get that done, and everybody piles ladders on and a poker chip onto Cage as if to keep him out of the match. Sabian shows some athletic ability. He hits a coast to coast onto Cabana. Sabian then climbs, but Kazarian drops him with a ladder shot, and then Sabian takes a bump off one ladder onto another. Penelope Ford climbs the ladder, but Cassidy sent her off onto her boyfriend. Havoc comes in again. Best friends run out to help Cassidy and neutralize him. Micro Stunt gets his little 5 seconds of fame. He runs out with a mini ladder. He hits an assisted choke slam on Orange Cassidy off the ladder and a tope. Then Luchasaurus gets back in things, and he tries something that didn't work. Janela hits a running Death Valley driver off the apron on Cassidy, landing on top of the same weaponry that Brian Cage is underneath. Somehow Cage comes back to life soon after this, but not before the members of SCU are climbing the ladder. Luchasaurus, all too involved in this. Cage gets up, takes them out, and hits some strikes. Powerbombs Luchasaurus onto the ladder. Cage sets the ladder up across the top rope. Darby Allin takes a vicious move here as he's laid across the ladder and then he falls off. Camera cuts away and they try it again, but this time Cage presses the ladder with Allin on it over his head and throws Allin, who is still laying on the ladder, onto the floor. And Cage climbs the ladder, retrieves the chip for the win. Taz says that he's going to continue to bring carnage. I'm not a fan of these matches because there's too much done, but this is really well done, and they relatively stayed as safe as you can in a match like this. So, if you like chaos, worth watching. Love that they come with a slowdown here. MJF defeats Jungle Boy up next. They tell a really compelling story, as with all MJF matches. Old school chain wrestling early. Bridges by both men. MJF fakes a knee injury. Doesn't sell it as long as he could have here. Doctor jumps in to take a look at him. MJF jumps Jungle Boy from behind. Hits him with some really hard strikes. Backbreaker on Jungle Boy. And Jungle Boy comes back. Hits 3 consecutive dives. And then MJF cuts him off with a springboard onto the left arm. Kind of like a springboard arm breaker, for lack of a better term. They go trading strikes. Jungle Boy hits a Canadian Destroyer, and MJF pops up and runs into a thrust kick. So popping up quickly does not pay off for MJF here. Jungle Boy grabs a crossface, but MJF hits a package pile driver for a near fall. Jungle Boy up with a poison rana on the apron, ouch, and executed it, as safe as you can be, but there's no way to do that without getting somebody hurt. Jungle Boy hits a sit-out powerbomb from the middle rope near fall. MJF goes for a shoulder breaker, but his back gives out. They trade near falls for a few minutes. MJF finally hits the salt of the earth applied, and but doesn't get it fully locked in. Finish saw several quick cradles, and MJF, with a surprising wrestling-related win, gets the Euro clutch for the pinfall. Let's see. So Mike Tyson comes in with the underfinished TNT Championship. They said later in the championship match, which is up next, that the gold plating had not been added to the belt because of the pandemic, but that will eventually be done. Bryce Remsburg offers to give both competitors a chance to shake hands before the match. Neither one takes the other up on that. Lance Archer actually had chokeslammed some random person before making his way to the ring. Cody is by far my favorite wrestler in the modern era right now. There's never a match of his that I don't enjoy at least a good bit, if not a whole lot. This is no different. Archer is a guy that I wasn't high on, but he proved himself tonight as a guy that can go. Archer hits the blackout right away, and Cody rose to the outside before he can get, covered, and then Archer tries to go for the claw, but Cody breaks the hold. Cody goes for a cutter. Archer hits him with a pounce for the trouble, and then they go to the floor. Pace slows. They make their way back in. Top rope into a moonsault by Archer after he walks the ropes. So it's a basically walk the rope moonsault. Heck of a move for a guy 6'6" plus to do. Cody hits a delayed vertical suplex. Archer answers with a vertical of his own. Archer exposes the buckle, and Cody uses that to his advantage. Archer press slams Cody over the top rope to the floor. Archer chokes Cody with the bottom rope. I will say, the one thing I didn't like about this is that Archer really needs more killer instinct. I understand he's trying to look like a big monster, but this is a championship match. I really feel he should have stayed on him a good bit more. And he's lacking the killer instinct. He's lacking that feeling. So Rhodes up with a crossface and then hits a DDT in front of Jake Roberts. Roberts doesn't sell it as much as I thought he would, but you can see that he's not happy with this. Cody hits a springboard second rope cutter, but Archer makes his way out of that. He hits the flip, flop, and fly, and the final reckoning. Cody hits Crossroads, and Archer kicks out of that. Archer certainly looks strong in this, as well he should. Cody hits a Stinger splash. Maybe Sting will be part of the promotion soon enough if they acknowledge Sting and go in that direction. Archer then does not sell it. Gets a chokeslam for a near fall. Archer uses the claw, but Cody out of that too. Roberts takes the referee while Archer walks the top rope. Anderson crotches Archer for his trouble. Gets caught, and Cody hits a superplex. Second referee runs out, acknowledges Anderson cheated. Anderson and Roberts about to be kicked out. Roberts is ejected momentarily. He comes back out with a snake. Tyson jumps up and cuts him off. Tyson took his shirt off, and then Jake backs down. Archer goes for the blackout a second time. Cody blocks it and hits two Crossroads for the win. He is your new TNT champion. This is really good if you like Cody. Even if you don't, he brings a lot out of Archer that might not have been there with another guy. Alex Marvez interviews Dr. Sampson. Sampson says Baker has a fracture in her leg, ligament tear and a tendon tear, but the injuries pale in comparison to dealing with her as a person, as she's high maintenance, and he says that she wants to address when she will return on Wednesday, so that's worth noting. Next match is the replacement of Penelope Ford with Kip Sabian versus Chris Statlander. This makes me sad. I miss Britt Baker. I'm not a fan of Penelope Ford. I don't get her. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, could have skipped this. I'm happy for Statlander, though, because she does seem like she's got something, and they could be doing more with her. Match is just sloppy because Ford is not ready to be on pay-per-view. She's not ready to do anything at that level. I'm sorry for anyone that believes differently, but I don't see it. Sabian enters on crutches to acknowledge the damage he took in the ladder match. Statlander uses a side headlock takeover, and they do the hair spots. Ford hit a draping DDT for near fall. Ford uses basic stalling moves, including chin locks, to get things going her way. Statlander comes back, almost overshooting a suicide dive. She then hits a high kick and a running knee. Statlander hits a Falcon Arrow for near fall. Ford blocks it, and also blocks the Big Bang Theory. Hits an inverted DDT out of that. Ford does the Matrix backspin and then tries a stunner, but Statlander blocked, and Ford hits a top rope Rana. The end of the match sees Statlander block a back handspring, hit a blue thunder bomb, and then the Big Bang Theory tombstone for the win. No. This match could have been skipped, and if you're watching it back, can easily be skipped, as can the next one. I don't know where they were going with Dustin and Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears has fallen off a cliff. Anyway, so Spears enters. He's in a suit. He says Dustin isn't there. And Spears has the music of Dustin played. So everyone's stupid falling for it. Dustin does eventually come out, and it didn't need to be on the pay-per-view. This was a throwaway match, basically what you do to go get popcorn. They do basically comedy spots. Brandy appears, Dustin appears, and he comes right in on Spears. He goes nuts on him. Dustin tore Spears' clothes off, chases him around ringside, and then Tully Blanchard's face is on the nether regions of Shawn Spears. Don't quite understand that. Dustin hits the Final Reckoning and pins Spears in a match that really could have been skipped. September 8th is your next AEW pay-per-view. This is the all-out version, so they're already promoting the next one. Before they finish this one, this is good business. Also, it's close enough to Labor Day where you can kind of get the holiday fall over, and hopefully by then we'll be back to having things in person. Hana Kimura graphic was up. She, for those that don't know, and I know I butchered her name, no reason to pick on me for it. I'm not familiar with her. Wasn't until she passed away. Anyway, she was a Japanese professional wrestler who unfortunately took to self-harm and later suicide this week. Excalibur, I'll give the guy credit, gives a sincere speech about how tragic things are, and asks everyone to be kinder to each other on social media. I honestly think that all wrestling companies, all sports, entertainment companies, so let's say wrestling, sports, and entertainment, so all three should do public service announcements around people doing less bullying on social media. I've been the victim of bullying both on and offline my entire life. It's no fun, and if you're not a strong person, it can eat you alive. If you are a strong person, you realize people are just, well, jack offs upon occasion, but if you have mental health issues, or if you have self esteem issues, or if you have anything going on, something like that can and often does ruin lives. So just be kind. You can have an opinion, agree to disagree, and do what you do. Um, Hakura Shida does defeat Nyla Rose in a no countout, no DQ match to win the women's championship, thankfully. As I have mentioned before, I'm not a Nyla Rose fan, have not been. She was carried to a good match here. I will give Shida all the credit in the world. This is a great match, probably the best match I've seen Nyla Rose in anywhere, and Rose can be carried to a good match, but you need someone who knows what they're doing with her. She'd had that skill. She'd been around long enough, or at least has been taught how to carry people well. Probably, maybe, I would say, behind the ladder match, second best match of the night. That's not a gimmick match, because the Stadium Stampede thing is coming up, and that's certainly a spectacle to say the very least. Rose enters and is brandishing a kendo stick. They brawl over the stick. Rose blocks a shot and uses the stick, and we see the first of many running knee lifts by Shida. They brawl to the outside. Rose puts Shida through a table, hits her with a chair. Back in the ring, Shida blocks a beast bomb and comes back with a series of knee strikes. I like the fact that Shida, unlike, the little midget girl they had that was champion first. Anyway, I can't even think of her name. That's how insignificant she was. Anyway, she did not look credible, whereas Shida does look credible with her strikes. They go back to the floor and all around the building. Use of poker chips and then more knee strikes. Rose hits a draping knee strike for near fall. Rose then sets up a table in the corner, and Shida blocks it. Rose hits a power bomb through that table for a near fall. Rose hits a DVD driver, and then grabs the kendo stick for more punishment, and goes to the top rope. Shida cuts her off and hits a massive Falcon Arrow for a near fall. With the size disparage between these two women, it looked really good. Shida hits a Shining Wizard, but Rose kicks out at 2. Shida drops Rose, and then, let's see, I will be back in 1 second here. And Shida wins with the strike. She gets very emotional at the end of the contest, as would be expected. And then she ends up hitting the we'll just let that go. She ends up hitting the strike for the win, and then she is your new champion. We go on to the benefit of the championship match, Brody Lee against Jon Moxley for the AEW championship. Fast brawl between the two. Very back and forth, obviously, to be expected. Lee misses a high kick early in the corner and falls onto the floor. Moxley hits a suicide dive. Wish that not everyone was doing these, but we're not going to get there from here. They do the crash through the barricade thing, and Lee comes back with a suplex on the floor. Hits a series of front chancery suplexes, and then Lee hits his own tope dive. Lee suplex Moxley onto a piece of the barricade. They go back to the ring, trade strikes. Moxley hits a lariat and a Gotch-style pile driver for a near fall. They go back outside, inside, outside, inside, outside. Basically, the story of the match. Lee blocks a Regal stretch with a one-legged drop kick, and then Moxley hits a backdrop on Lee off the steps through the timekeeper's table. It looked like Lee might have dinged himself here, because his eyes just kind of rolled a bit. He's either a really good actor or he might have been knocked silly for a minute. Anyway, superplex on Moxley, and then they go back to the floor. They use the playing card part of the set that is there, and Lee uses those to get an advantage. They brawl onto the stage and around the rest of the building. They use poker chips as a weapon, brawl onto the ramp, and then they do the cutaway of the ramp with the double arm DDT by Moxley. They go through the ramp. Think Taz and Bam Bam Bigelow from ECW in '98. Think Brock Lesnar and Big Show when they collapse the ring, only this is just collapse the ramp. It's great if you've never seen it. It was kind of like, they pulled out something really interesting there. But the match could have done without it either way. So referees, road agents, and all sorts of other personnel come out. Moxley crawls out the hole first. Lee comes out and he's bleeding. Moxley hits Paradigm Shift. Lee kicks out of it. Moxley hits a second one. And Lee kicks out at 2. He kicked out at 1 with the first one. And Moxley uses a choke and transfers it into a rear naked. Lee passes out from the hold, and the referee calls the ref stoppage finish. I liked this finish. I liked Moxley looking like a world beater. I think it's good overall. They do a commercial for the action figures, and then they hype the main event, Stadium Stampede. Interesting that this goes on last. I would have put the championship match on last, but I understand the stadium thing is a one-of-a-kind thing. I normally don't like these types of matches, but this was done really, really well. There's stuff you'll never see again in a wrestling fight. Part of it looked like it belonged in a video game, but at the same time, it all made sense for the characters that existed, and it's there. I enjoyed this where I normally wouldn't. It's crazy, it's goofy, it has some interesting wrestling spots, it has some stupid stuff. It's going to polarize a crowd. If you are a person that only likes the technical aspect of wrestling, don't even bother watching this. If you understand that wrestling is technical and entertainment, and you want to see something you won't see again, go out of your way to see this. Anyway, so cheerleaders were there, the marching band is there, the inner circle wears football uniforms, and they're announced by their numbers. The Elite introduced but enters wearing wrestling gear. Hangman Page announced, but he did not enter with his team. This plays into things later. Referee starts with the blow of a whistle, and the match begins. They brawl all over the place, and Matt Hardy introduces his trash can. Hangman Page then comes forward on a horse. Yes, a horse, as in Mr. Ed. He does some chasing of Sammy Guevara on the horse. Santana and Ortiz, they do spots in the middle of a ring that's in the middle of the field. Nothing really exciting here. The match does go too long. Omega then hits a Snapdragon suplex on Santana. Hager hits some moves on Omega. Hardy hits a side effect on Hager. Some of these moves really look like they hurt because they're being done on the ground. Guevara runs back onto the field. He climbs the top rope, misses a shooting star press onto Hardy. Hardy hits another side effect, and Omega goes for a V-trigger, but Jericho saves his on-again, off-again tag team partner. Santana hits a moonsault onto a crowd of folks. Guevara hits a shooting star press off the post onto the group of folks. And Jackson hits a moonsault off of the goalpost to take out Jericho and Hager. Like I said, some of the spots you see here, you'll never see again. When are you going to see a guy jump off the goalpost in a football stadium? You're not, right? So, one of a kind type thing. Omega and Hardy brawl in the stands, and they use traffic cone as a weapon. This gets kind of goofy. Page is looking for Guevara. He gave up, and then he goes off to find the bar in the stadium. Santana and Ortiz uses loaded socks on Hardy, and then they threw salt in Omega's eyes. Again, this is the goofy part. Not a fan of this. Powerbomb on Omega through a piece of the barricade, and they were balanced on tabletops. Certainly takes a great deal of balance to be able to do this. Santana and Ortiz throw Matt Hardy into the stadium swimming pool. They try to drown him. I was not a fan of this. If kids are at home, may try to emulate this, and we don't need people trying to drown each other during coronavirus, because I'm sure there's enough people that would like to drown each other for real. Hardy keeps coming up with a different persona every time he comes up from being underwater. Hardy hits Ortiz with the stadium bell, then duct tapes him to a chair of wheels, otherwise known as a wheelchair, for those of us who aren't 3,000 years old. Hardy stuffs Santana in a freezer and wired the freezer with a broom. Yes, he stuffed people in a freezer. Interesting. Kind of concerned about hypothermia. Anyway, Hardy hits Hager encountered Page's horse in the tunnels. Page is sitting at the stadium bar. They have a shot with each other, and then they continue to fight. Page breaks a pool cue over Hager. Hager no-sold it. Hager hits a choke slam on top of a pool table. I don't care how you work that. Ouch. No, thank you. Hager drops Page across the top of the bar. They do the gut-wrench powerbomb through a table for near fall. Yes, referees are following this whole thing around the stadium. Omega approached and broke several bottles over the head of Hager. Hager no-sells it. And Omega hit Hager with a V-trigger. Page hits him with a buckshot lariat. Hager flew over the bar. Omega and Page tossed milk and whiskey, toasted with milk and whiskey respectively. So then we see a series of Northern Light suplex by Matt Jackson across the field, literally like across the whole length of the field. This is not doing wonders for the suplex, but at the same time, within the context of this match, somehow it makes sense, it fits. They throw footballs at Jericho. Jericho sends him into the mouth of the Jacksonville Jaguar mascot. Speaking of the mascot, he comes out. He gets nailed with the... he first of all sends him into the mouth of a plastic mascot. The actual human... the person in a suit, human in a suit, comes out as the mascot. He gets nailed with a Judas effect for his trouble. Then they do a spot with a traffic cone. Jericho uses the bat. Jericho insists that he's won at this point, demands to see a replay, follows the referee into the replay tent, and they're arguing, blah, blah, blah. Matt Jackson finishes his suplexes finally in the end zone, does a touchdown dance, and then Rick Knox throws a flag on the play, and so that leads Jackson to hit a super kick. Jericho went for a bat shot on Nick, but Matt saves him. And then there is a splash on the stadium, how to put it? A splash from high up above in seats through a table. Page brings out field chalk and lined Jericho with it. Guevara was awakened from his suplex slumber, and then he thinks he's won the match. He has not. Omega and Hardy appeared with a golf cart and chased Guevara into the stands. This sets up the finish. Guevara hits Omega and Hardy with boots to the face. A new drone, the Neo, appeared in the distance of Guevara. Omega then hit a one-winged angel off the stands, threw a gimmicked table on the field, and pinned Guevara. Then they do the Gatorade bath with the Elite to close the show. Overall, there's things I don't like, yes, but I would say there's maybe 30% of the show you can skip. If you want to skip the stadium battle because it's not a true wrestling match, you can, but I think you're missing something that you'll never see again, so it's kind of one of those, kind of like Halftime Heat, the first time they did that. It's worth seeing just because it exists. Anyway, definitely a good effort from AEW. I would watch this over any of the WWE product any day of the week, just because there's passion behind what they're doing. In any event, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.